Greetings, it's Jerry here. Today I've got this cassette DVD player from Studebaker. Originally I thought that this might have been created in the 80s, maybe the late 80s, early 90s, when they were transitioning from cassette tapes to CD players. And of course you would have wanted to have a unit that does both so that you could play both of your collections. But when I looked on the internet, I found that these have made a resurgence, and there is quite a lot of these that have been made right now. So this might even be only 3 or 4 years old. I'm not 100% sure. I really love this thing. It's got a fantastic look to it that really looks like an old Bakelite era radio. And I'm just amazed to think that someone's gone to the trouble to actually make these units again. Now, if you followed along with my journey into repairing old cassette decks, you'll understand that you really can't use old cassette decks from the 80s because the main problem is the belts actually that drive the motors have disintegrated in these older units. And so you really have to go to a lot of effort to open them up and replace the belts and then calibrate them in order to get them to work. So it makes sense that people wishing to use cassette tapes, their old cassette tapes, need to find new units to use them. And perhaps this is where this market comes from. I really like this design. I think they've really captured a retro feel to this. There's nothing cheap about this. I mean, it's made of plastic, yes, but the design is really wonderful. It seems to be faithful to my memory of early radios, even down to these buttons. These knobs here, they really look, even the colour is the way that I remember my grandfather's radios, sitting in his house back when I was a kid. So I think that they've gone to a lot of effort to do it. So I'm not 100% sure how old this is. I think it's modern, but I couldn't find the exact model or a picture of the model on the internet. And the later models actually have Bluetooth built into them. So it's not that modern as the ones that you can currently buy, but still I don't think it's that old. So Studebaker I know is the car manufacturer, the American car manufacturer. I'm not quite sure whether that's the same company. I assume that perhaps it is, because the logo looks right. I'll just show you the bottom here. So the model is SB4010BW. And this unit I bought off eBay. The seller said that, I think they said that it turned on, but the cassette deck didn't work. So we'll figure that out in a minute, what's wrong with it. So I'll just give you some various views of it. Like I said, plenty of attention to detail to how old radios look. There's a couple of things I hope to get out of this. Regardless of whether or not it works or not, I'm going to pull this apart because I really want to see what's inside it. If this is a modern take on the cassette recorders or players, I'm curious to see whether or not they use the same mechanism as they used in the 80s. Whether there's some factory somewhere in China or something like that that still pumps out the same units, or whether they've created something new to fit in with this design. I suspect that they're reusing the same old traditional designs, but it will be very interesting to see how it looks on the inside. The other thing I'm pretty excited about is because this is modern, it does mean if I can get it to work that it should play cassette tapes perfectly, because the belt will be modern. So unlike the ones that I've repaired previously, where I've replaced the belts in them and had to calibrate them. And I've had varying levels of success with that, because everything has to be perfect in order to get that to work. And the belts that I've been purchasing, you purchase them quite cheaply off the internet. You might get 30 belts for $5, $6, $7. And when I have repaired and replaced the belts in units, and then when I've tested the wow and flutter of the unit after replacing the belts, it hasn't been great. This unit is in pretty poor shape at the moment physically. There's not a lot of dings and things in it, but it is really, really dirty. And there is not corrosion, but it's, I don't know, there's a lot of gunk on here. So I would say that this has been sitting in a garage or something like that, and it's got plenty of dirt and grime on it, which is not really a problem. It's what happens internally, I guess, which will determine whether or not we can get this to work. So I haven't plugged this in. I think we'd better do that now and see exactly what happens. All right. So somewhere we can plug the AC into would be there.
Isaac, you can imagine in their paper, which is
Okay.
the subject of active debate.
So physically it turns on. Let's see what happens if we press open and close on the compact disc. Nothing. Do we need to switch it into a mode for that to work? Oh yeah, so it's currently on FM. Let's switch it to CD. It's saying OP, which I'm guessing means open, and nothing. Try and nudge that at all. No, so I can hear a whirling sound inside, like something is trying to happen. And this door doesn't look like it's sealed uniformly. Okay, let's try that again. Is that whirling sound? OP. Okay, nothing's happening. Alright, so what about the tape? Stop eject. So it must have been used a fair bit, because all of these, the lettering on here is quite worn. So let's press stop eject. No, nothing. Alright, so neither the compact disc or the tape will open. Makes me wonder. I wonder if this has gotten moisture inside it, whether it's been dunked in something and it's all gummed up inside. Oh well, there's only one way to find out. Let's open it up and see. was easy enough. Just needed to be pulled in the right direction. Oh, it's full of bugs. Alright. Yeah. I just need to be very careful that there are no redback spiders in here. And that is not a joke. Alright. This baby's definitely been outside, and just looking at it, I can see lots of corrosion. Alright. And all sorts of insect larvae. Not nice. Okay, so I'm going to have to desolder these wires in order to completely remove the back. What's that? There's an old paper clip attached to the back of the speakers. So that's fallen inside, I guess, and yeah. All right. And there's all sorts of gunk here. So it looks like something has been spilt. It's gone down into the unit. All right. I need to crank up the soldering iron. All right. That should allow us to remove that part of it. Very nice. Put that aside. And what do we have? Oh, this is yucky. It's full of some form of insect larvae. Yeah. Interesting though. This is the tape unit here. It looks quite interesting. Oh, and there's all sorts of yucky stuff in the tape mechanism. Okay, I think the next thing is I'm going to vacuum out all of the insect activity that's happening inside here. Well, it's still pretty horrible, but we need to get at the unit. So we'll have to start pulling it apart, I think, to be able to get any closer to it. Looks to be a couple of screws which perhaps hold this tape unit onto there. And then there's some connectors that go on there. Right. Yuck. It's definitely something more holding it on than just those two screws. It's wobbling around quite a bit like it wants to come out. Oops. Some sort of hinge there. Has that been broken off? Yes. So that looks like it's broken. It fits onto there. Okay. But we still need to remove the unit. Okay, so that broken hinge is probably what was stopping this from opening. Oh, I can see some nasty stuff going on in there. Okay. So this door is busted. I wonder if someone else has been in here and busted it. Trying to get it out. I need to be a bit more careful, I think. Don't want to do the same. Okay, got it. Yeah. And there's just something yucky going on in there. Alright. So let's have a squiz in there. It's just horrendous. There is corrosion in there. I mean, there's this stuff here which is sort of green, but there's also the bolts that are holding, what's that? Is that the erase head? Yeah, it's really bad. Okay, but still, even if we can't repair this thing, we still want to get it apart and see what's going on inside. So what could be holding that in? Yeah, okay, just needed to give it a push. And then what have we got here? It's connected. It's got a whole bunch of wires connecting it. There's a cable. Disconnect that. Disconnect that, and we're good. There's another screw. Okay, so yeah, I mean that's pretty disgusting. So definitely liquid damage has gone in there, and it's gummed up the works, and yeah. Now that the unit's out, I mean, I can see that it's completely different from what I was expecting. It's way simpler than actually the cassette decks that I've looked at, you know, that have come out of the 80s. Nowhere near as beefy, mechanically not as sophisticated. Not to say that it wouldn't work, but you know, these are plastic. There's the levers that push in and out. There's the belt, and everything's just covered in a layer of gunk. Yeah. Well, I guess I should just start by cleaning it up. I mean, that would be the first step, I guess. And see how it looks from that point onwards. Let me grab some gear. Okay, spent some considerable time cleaning this. Might not look it, but compared to what it was, I think I've got about 30 Q-tips over there. Plus I used some other cloths and things. So I've got it to the point where I'm reasonably happy with it. I wouldn't mind getting underneath these. So the under there, but it's quite complicated in there, and I don't really want to pull it apart at this point. There's little springs and things like that in there. I took the circuit board off the back. What did I do with the circuit board? One moment while I find it. Yeah, so here's the circuit board. I thought I'd show this to you because it has a date on it. It says revision 4.0 2005, 28th of the 4th 2005. So there's a bit of corrosion on here. It's not too bad. I'm hoping that it's going to work. I don't want to be too fussy about this because the thing may not work at all. So we don't want to get too far into it. Cleaning it up and then find out it's just not usable. So I thought I'd go over the mechanism here to see if it works. Now, if you've watched any of my videos, you'll understand that I'm not an expert on this, and I don't even really go and research these things before I pull them apart, because that's basically the fun in it for me, is pulling them apart, seeing what's inside, figuring out how it works. So I'm going to go over what I think or how I think this operates. And you can come along for the ride if you like, but don't expect what I say to be gospel. So I can start off by just pressing all the buttons and seeing if they function. And they do. Now this is the record button, and I'm going to show you something about that in a second. But you'll see that basically the forward and reverse, so one of these has a motor behind it. Well, there is only one motor, and it switches between the belts in order to function, whether it's playing or whether it's reversing or fast forwarding. So one of these is like a take-up wheel, and the other one is the motor. So that's fairly simple, but if you press the play, you'll see that there's a lot of mechanical movement in there. So this is the head that reads, okay, in here, and that needs to push against the tape. And the tape actually goes through, I think this is called the cap span roller here. So this is just a shaft that comes up here, and here's the pinch roller, and that pinches the tape between this. So the cap span roller is the thing that actually spins, and the pinch roller pushes the tape against it, so that helps the tape move past the head here. And the most important thing here is obviously the speed in which it moves, and the quality of the movement is what makes the tape play correctly. So if anything gets in the way, if this is dirty and it's not quite going through at the exact speed it's been calibrated at, or anything else in here gets in the way of the tape moving exactly as it should, you're going to get problems with the playback of the tape. And there's two things about that. There's the wow and the flutter. And basically they're just the thing where you put a tape in and it sort of goes makes a funny sound because it's not moving 100% through it. So yeah, it's a bit of a mechanical engineering masterpiece actually, really, when you consider how it works. But the thing that interests me is I was trying to figure out how you press record. And I seem to recall back in the day you had to press play and record in order for record to work. And I did wonder why that was. But now that I look at this, I can see that there's a lot of effort gone into the mechanics of making the play work. So you can see it moves the head up, it tightens the belt, pushes the pinch roller against it so that it can actually play the tape. So if you want to record, you have to do exactly the same thing, except you're putting into record mode. So this head unit here, instead of reading, it's writing. So with all this mechanics in there, it makes sense that the record is simply something on top of the play. You don't want to repeat all of those mechanics when you press the record. So I think all the record is doing, you could have a switch that says, okay, we're going into record mode. And you know, I think you could physically do that, but the problem with that is obviously people would leave the switch in the wrong spot. So it's better to have everything on this unit here where you're actually physically pressing the buttons. The other cool thing about having a mechanical mechanism is obviously if something gets stuck, and it does get stuck because it's sticky or something like that, then me as a user, I'm just going to be able to mash down on this mechanical button here and unstick it eventually. I'm sure that they have high-end units which use motors and things like that that are digital that would do this, but this makes a lot of sense from an engineering point of view to be mechanical, because it's really, there's a lot of force you can apply with your thumbs or your fingers in order to push these heads, you know, to make the mechanics of it work. So going back to the record, so in some units you actually have to press play and record at the same time, both buttons, so you've got to use push down on both. With this, it actually has an interesting addition where it has a tab on the bottom of the, well, it's actually on the bottom of the play, so that when you press the record button, it actually also just physically pushes the play button for you. So that's an interesting feature. So if I press record, nothing happens, right? And I was thinking, well, maybe that's broken. But then I realized there's this thing about recording on tapes, and you have to have, there's a tab at the top of the tape. And if that tab has been removed, you can record. Or if the tab hasn't been removed, you can't record. So you can't accidentally record it. And what I think is happening here is this is the little unit here. It's a little lever which presses into the tab of the tape. And if the tab is still there, it can't move all the way in. But if it is there, then it releases the ability to press the record button. So I can't press the record button now, nothing happens. But if I move this tab, if I move that backwards, all of a sudden I can press record. I don't know if that's obvious. So I can't press record, and then I move the tab, like the lever that would fit into the tab, and all of a sudden I can press record. Do that again. So I don't think it's broken. I think it's actually cool. It's actually working exactly the way that it should. So the next step is I want to lubricate some things in here. Have to be careful not to get any lubrication on the parts. Oh, the other thing, sorry. Just let me grab a tape and I'll show you something else. So I've got a tab here. I've got a tape here, and these are the tabs here. And so the tabs, no, it's the opposite. So yeah, and that would make sense. So when you first get these, the tabs have been removed, and so this won't allow you to record. If you place, say some sticky tape over here, that will then force this lever to push backwards, and that's when you can actually do the recording. But I just wanted to put this in and just show you the path that the tape takes. I'm not 100% sure that you can see this, but you can see that the tape is just sitting there, and all of this unit here, which has the reed head. Oh, and that's the other thing I was going to say about the recording. When you press recording, there is an erase head on this side. So as you record, it first, as the tape passes the erase head, it gets erased and then recorded when it passes the main head here. So that's the other thing that has to work in order to be able to record. But I've got this tape in there and I can't press record. Okay, I'm going to put a bit of tape over this thing here, and that should allow us, that will release the mechanism and allow us to record. Let me find some tape. Okay, this is all I could find, but it should do. So basically, we're just covering over this hole. And then when we insert tape, that lever should now be pushed backwards, and hopefully the record mechanism works. Yes, it does. Okay. But what I was talking about here is, so you can see at the moment the tape isn't touching the head. There's nothing touching the head. When I press play, it pushes the whole mechanism forward. You can see that the head is now touching the tape. The tape is passing between the pinch roller and the capstan roller. So that's allowing it to be pushed through. I guess it's pushed through at this particular speed that it needs to be pushed through in order to play correctly. And you can see this little lever here. Okay, so that pushes up against the tape, and I think that just creates a tension so that the tape is being pushed against the head here, just to make sure that physically the tape is being held against the head at the perfect angle, I guess. Yeah, so it's a little bit mechanical, and you can see how if anything, any variable comes into this that prevents the tape from being successfully pulled through over the head at the exact, speed that it needs to go, or, and there's something wrong well, there's anything wrong at all. If it has to be going through at the exact right speed for the tape to work. So, yeah, it's very, very interesting. So the other thing I wanted to show you is I don't know if you can see here, I tried to clean this head. I cleaned it quite a lot, but there's still yellow. I don't know if that... Can you see the yellow that's on here? I'm guessing that is rust or something like that. I can't remove it. I have no idea whether this head is any good. You can see here that on the spring here that there's a bit of rust. See how bad it was. I'm guessing somebody spilled a drink down into this. But that's about as far as I can go at the moment. I'm going to want to put it back in or connect it up and then try and put a tape through it and just see what we got. And then maybe if it all works, then I might spend some extra time trying to clean because it still is a bit dirty and there's still a bit of gunk on the pinch roller here. I'm just going to have to keep going over that until I can get it out. Let's put this tape unit back in and see how we go. Should I connect that first? Probably would be a good idea. Okay. And stick it back in the unit. Alright, so this is just going to be a quick test to see whether it even functions. But we need power. If the lights go out, you know what's happened. So that works, so the radio still works, but that's not what we're after. So let's switch it to, that's CD, we want tape. Alright. What happens if we press fast forward? Okay, so the fast forward is working. Rewind. Oh, it's very slow. I think it should be much faster than that. I think it's struggling to rewind. What about play? Yeah, play it actually works faster than rewind, or am I around the wrong way? So it's fast forward that is going slow. Rewind is going much faster. I don't know, maybe that's normal. So I've got this tape, which I don't care about. It's called The Singing Detective. It was a TV series, I think, BBC. And I don't really care what happens to this. I don't even know whether the tape is much good. But let's just see. I'd be so surprised if this just works, because that head was, well, it still is in bad shape with the corrosion on it, but it's only one way to find out. It actually, I'm going to move closer to the microphone, it actually sounds really good. I'm amazed.
Some rain must fall, but too much is...
Okay, so this is what we're going to do, is I'm going to play through an entire tape. And if it hasn't chewed the tape up, then I'm going to put in my calibration tape, and we'll see exactly how close it is to factory calibration. So give me a moment, and offline I will just play this tape through its entirety, maybe on both sides, just to clean out the system and to make sure it's not eating tapes. If it passes that test, then let's check the calibration. So I've played through this tape a couple of times. Everything seems to be good. So it's time to test the calibration. So this tape is emitting a 3150 Hertz tone on it, and we want to see how close we get to that using this app on my mobile phone. And we're just going to play it through the speakers and just see how it is. So it looks a little bit high, but not massively. Okay, I can't talk while that's going. So yeah, it's a little bit high, but not very much. And also the wow and flutter factor doesn't seem to be massive either. So I'm actually quite impressed. This does have a new belt on it compared to other ones that I've done. And maybe that's got something to do with the fact that it's so well within tolerance. Alright, I might leave the video here. That's all working very nicely, but I don't want to put the whole thing back together because I've still got the CD player to work with, and obviously I have this broken piece of plastic that I need to repair. This video's gone on for too long. So in part 2 we will move on and see if we can get the CD player to work. And then after that we might come back and recalibrate this and put it all back together. So join me then. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Think about subscribing and check out some of my other videos. Ciao.